are the lakes, the big ones. 5 of them, forming a huge inland sea of fresh water, stretching across the heartland of the continent. Until a generation ago, commercial fishing was one of the big attractions around here, and a lot of people made their living from it. All this is in jeopardy. Fewer fish for sports fishermen, fewer fish for commercial fishermen. Today they all complain about the changes, but they can't agree on what caused them. But the big question is not what happened, but what's going to happen. One thing is certain, a lot has to happen if commercial and sports fishing on the lakes is to improve or even survive.
A lot of people, when I tell them I fish in Lake Michigan, their first response is, "It's no fish in Lake Michigan." That's the common response that people say.
And I was trying, but no luck. I said, man, there's no fish in Lake Michigan. I can't catch anything, and I just gave up. And I'm a river fishing guy, so we combined the two, and we've been catching fish ever since. I mean, monsters, you know.
A lot of guys catch fish, they feed their families with the fish. Some guys, they make a couple dollars and pay their bills selling fish. And it's a social thing though too. You know, we get together and come out here and get away from all that nonsense in the city. And this is like a spot where it's a truce. It's all good on the lake. There's no fight, no arguing, there's nothing but love here. This is love. Name of our club is Nightmares. They probably didn't say it the right way. Let me say it the right way. Nightmares!
Salmon Nightmares is a fishing crew. Salmon Nightmares is a culture. Salmon Nightmares is a deep part of Chicago because every person that has ever caught a salmon has had a salmon nightmare. Just one of those catches that is heartfelt. You go home and you think about it, you telling your wife about it, you telling your kids about it, you telling the family about it. It's to the point that people are like, all right, let's let it go. That is a salmon nightmare.
Hold on. That's him right there. That's him right there.
That's
okay. Prime time. Prime time.
Best nightmare
ever. That's what happens, David, when you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, goddammit.
Most people that know me call me the fish lady because they know that's my heart and that's what I do. One day I was driving through the park and I saw these guys out here fishing, and I just drove up and I asked them, I said, "What are you catching?" And they was like, "Oh, you don't want to know anything about this. You're a female." And I was like, "I like to fish too." And they said, "Oh, okay, well, come on over."
Because we feed strangers. When we barbecue, people can come up and eat. They don't have to fish. We don't have to know them. We don't care.
Chicago is more than just dangerous and guns and violence and stick-ups and crime rate. It's a lot of great stuff in Chicago as well. That's the motivation behind Nightmares as well, to show that it's a lot of no nightmares. It's a lot of just great stuff that happens that is not always negative.
Hey, y'all ever seen the salmon dance?
Oh, yeah. You gotta do it.
Don't try to steal my dance, bro. No, don't even try that, man.
I've been coming out here for maybe about 20 years. It's not as many fish as there used to be. It used to be schools of fish to come through here.
We ain't been catching too many of nothing on these lures, you know, so they need to do better with their stockings. Not just here, in the parks too.
Well, it would help though, you know, if they stock a few more, you know.
Yeah, put some more fish in the water.
Yeah, you know, just keep up the tradition. Just like it's a tradition for us to fish. If they don't stock them, tradition dies.
Yeah, it dies. There's nothing here.
This is just kind of a hidden gem down here in central Illinois. A lot of people don't know we exist, but we are the largest fish hatchery here in the state. We're 160 acres. We produce 3 million fish every year. Jake Wolf was built in the late 70s and opened up in 1983. We produce 16 species of sport fish currently. A lot of the people we have come visit to the hatchery, our guests and our visitors, are from different parts of the state, and a lot of people from Chicago don't actually make it down here and know that we're even actually doing this, and this is where their salmon and trout come from, is this big facility in the middle of the forest, basically.
What we're doing today is we are sorting good eggs from bad eggs, and we're doing it on coho salmon, and these are Chinook salmon right now, and you can see the Chinook have already gone through the sorter, and they're actually hatched out. And I'll pull some up there. So see them wiggling around there? Those are actually live fish that have hatched out, and they have their yolk sac that they will absorb. They'll take them about a month, 4 weeks to absorb that yolk sac. So they're going to be in these trays for 2 months.
As far as state-run hatcheries go, really we exist to cater to anglers. Sport fishing licenses sales is really what keeps the lights on here and keeps us up and running. We are here to serve the anglers and stock fish throughout the state for people of all ages to catch.
The percentage of fish that are in Lake Michigan that come from this hatchery are probably anywhere from 10 to 15% maybe. We stock a proportionate amount of cold water fish in Lake Michigan based on the amount of shoreline we have. So we stock more than Indiana, but we of course stock less than Michigan and Wisconsin.
You know, in the past we definitely stocked a lot more salmon in Lake Michigan than we do now, and we just can't do it as much as we used to because of invasive species. Obviously climate change is a concern, but there's also just a lot more competition for resources and a lot less resources because of invasive species like zebra mussels and quagga mussels, round goby, alewife, and the list goes on and on. That's one of the reasons they love to keep salmon up and running, is just because it is a very big industry and it brings a lot of money to not only anglers but also the city of Chicago as well. So without us, the lake would definitely be a lot more natural, but not nearly attract as much attention as it does.
Aproximadamente hace tres temporadas o 3 años que empecé a venir a pescar salmón. Me trajo un sobrino y ya. De hecho, ayer estuvimos él y yo aquí en el día, en la mañana. Íbamos como a las 7 de la mañana. Conozco bastantes amigos ya. En 3 años tengo bastantes. Y ahí todo el tiempo, todo el día y noche venimos. Si no estamos en la noche, estamos en el día, en la mañana, en la tarde. Y cuando no vamos a trabajar, no vamos a hacer nada, nos amanecemos a veces. Le gusta el salmón, pero no todos los días como a mí.
¿Tú comes todos los días?
Casi todos los días, por lo menos 4 veces a la semana. Y bastante bien. Yo, fácil, si está frito, más de 1 libra. Esto tarda mucho, esto es estar constantemente tirando y nunca sabes cuándo vas a agarrar uno.
Yo creí que no tenía nada.
Primo, ¿me presta tantito esta?
Muy bien. Uno más pequeño, ¿verdad?
Sí, ¿ese es un qué?
No, no es ni... No es salmón, ¿no?
Sí, güey, sí es.
Muy bien.
No eres muy feo. Ay, güey, son...
Ay. Pero sí están pesados.
Sí,
Es que somos rancheros, en el rancho se come, se agarran unos pescaditos y eso viene ya de tiempo.
There's this idea when you stand on the shore of Lake Michigan, you look out and there's this oceanic expanse, and you think that, you know, these things are huge and they're too big for us to even make a dent in them in terms of hurting them ecologically. And it turns out that they are really fragile and that they can suffer greatly from what we put into them, and in some cases what we take out of them. Yeah, the Great Lakes prior to white settlement were basically ecologically isolated, just like a pond up in the Wisconsin woods, and so nothing could swim in or swim out. And then when whites arrived on the scene, they originally depended on the lakes as a navigation corridor and then as a source of protein. They opened two doors, the front door and the back door. The front door was the St. Lawrence Seaway in the 1950s, and the back door was the Chicago Sanitary and Ship Canal, which linked the waters of Lake Michigan with the Mississippi River Basin. And through these shipping channels came all manner of organisms that we weren't expecting. Significant invasions started with lampreys. They took out the lake trout. Behind the lampreys came alewives, and with no lake trout to eat, these little herring, these alewives, their numbers exploded. They became, you know, just like cockroaches in the lake, and there was nothing to eat them.
Hi, my name is Don Dubin, and this is my life's collection. This is what I strived all my life to achieve. Something had to be done to control the alewives. Dr. Tanner came from the West Coast, and he came up with an idea of trying to stock some fish that can utilize the alewives for food and control them. He came up with the idea of maybe we can plant coho salmon. He got, I believe, about 1 million eggs from the West Coast, brought them up to their hatchery, spawned them out, and released them into the lake, not knowing what would happen. Well, they did very well, and when they came back as adults in 3 years, people from all over went up to Michigan to try to catch these coho salmon, and they were spectacular. The lake is changing big time. One of the organisms that came in on the boats was the little zebra mussels, and they would suck the plankton out of the water, go from a very fertile to a almost sterile body of water.
And that's what the bottom of the lake looks like. It's just it's a mussel bed, and they're sucking the plankton out of the water. That's why the lake looks spectacular. It's gin clear. It looks like, you know, the Caribbean on some days, and that's not what the lake naturally looked like before the mussels. Before the mussels, it was more of a brothy green, and now it's gin clear, and that may look good, but that's not the sign of a healthy lake. It's the sign of a lake that's just getting the life sucked out of it, and that's what the mussels are doing. And everything above the mussels on the food chain suffers all the way up to the salmon fishery. Nobody's expecting the salmon fishery to completely disappear, and in some years it's still really going strongly, but you also have to realize that the bottom of the food chain is completely changed, and the expectation that the lake will be able to produce the bounty that it did in terms of salmon in the 70s, 80s, and 90s is probably not realistic.
I've fished Lake Michigan since I was like 6 years old. What did my grandfather say? Back in the 20s and 30s, this would stay solid well into April. And now that the water's warming and rising, the ice leaves sooner. We used to launch out of DuSable, or we'd go up to Waukegan and launch. Back when the limit on the salmon was, 10 a person. We ate like kings.
Oh, be good. Y'all have me crawl.
Yeah, it's broke, good.
It ain't gonna be diving over there. Y'all good. Y'all good.
Let me introduce what's up. Right now, this is not just the hottest man in the city.
Thank you.
He's one of the greatest fishermen before or beyond that. He probably did some of the hottest and best stuff you didn't see.
Now you got me blushing.
No, this is true.
This ice is actually that thick down. So you got over a foot something, a foot and a half. Once you get through these holes, you can see them. So we're fishing probably about 7 feet down. Fish come up, hit the bait, take off. That's the fight. That's what we enjoy mostly is the battle against them. If they win, they break the line, they go on about their business. If they lose, food. So that's it. It's just common. That's just it. It's peace. There's no strife, no stress, no nothing. Just you and nature and the fish. So if you can outsmart them, that's good. If you can't, try again the next day. So and the next, like we do. So
You get out there, you have peace, and you happy. You enjoying the scenery. You enjoy that you got up at 4 o'clock in the morning to see the sunrise. You hear the birds chirping. Sometimes you see even the worms coming out the ground. Early in the morning, the fish are jumping on top of the lake. It's an experience that you can't pay for. So no matter how much you spent or whatever you did, you can't pay for that because you're not promised to do that again.